This is Regain Wellness Podcast with Jamie Logie, episode 104. Are New Year's resolutions still worth making?
It's a Festivus miracle!
Hey guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jamie Logie. I run RegainWellness.com, and this is Regain Wellness Podcast. And thank you for joining me here today. Happy New Year, all that good stuff. I missed Festivus in the last episode I did. It was before December 23rd, the official day of Festivus. But I hope you had a good New Year. And if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for checking this out. I got a whole bunch of other shows if you're looking for good nutrition and health and fitness tips to get you going. Just make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Actually, anywhere you would get a podcast, I'm basically there. Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, all those places. Google Play, everything, I think. So wherever. But iTunes is the go-to. So go for that. So for this show today, I'm going to just be talking about, if there's any validity to setting New Year's resolutions, and actually, besides my thought process, there's a bunch of tips I'll give as well too for, I think, good, quick go-tos that can get you started if you're new to health or if you just need like a refresher. So I'll cover a few different things. So I think you'll get some good takeaways from this. Okay, here we go. I've done some shows on this, and I've been writing about the New Year's resolution issue, and it's always been not surprisingly, like it's a time of year where people start on a new health kick, and they want to lose weight, get fitter, quit smoking, drink less, be more active, the whole deal. And it's always been this kind of key part of the year, and it's something a lot of people would take on, and they take on too much at once. And everyone joins the gym. If you work at a gym regularly, there's an onslaught of people coming through. And by March, they're pretty much gone. And there's a few things to look at here. I think the statistics do say that the majority of people who set a New Year's resolution will not follow through on that. And they'll fail and they'll fall off it at a certain point. I'm going to look at how you can actually change that. And it's always been this, usual thing that, people start the year off with it. It trails out, then they do it again next year. And then in the last little while, it's been people are like saying that the stupidest thing you can do is set a New Year's resolution. And people have totally just turned their noses up at it. But I think that's a mistake as well, too. I used to be a little bit on that fence saying, don't waste your time in January. And, there's other times of the year you should set it. But if the new year can be a time, if you've struggled in, making health changes and getting on top of your diet and whatever, the New Year's is still a good time because it's going to be that constant reminder, even if it's only once a year, just because, New Year's resolutions are all around you and there's more promotion of health and diet changes and weight loss. At the very least, it's going to be that once a year reminder that you do want to make some positive changes to your health. You've obviously been thinking about it, which means it is somewhat of a priority to you. You might not be sure where to start. And I find as much as it is kind of an onslaught of everything, and the odds are, things won't be seen through. If it's at least that reminder, it's in the back of your head, whether you start a little bit and it falls off, it's something you can kind of not dwell in a bad way, but reflect back on and be like, oh yeah, I did need to be a little more active, start walking more, taking the stairs, or adding in more greens each day. So I think it does serve a purpose that way, that you can use. It might make you feel uncomfortable and might make you feel a bit of pressure, but I don't think that's the worst thing, especially when it comes to your health. Sometimes you need to feel a little uncomfortable to make some changes. If you don't feel like, if you're on the ball with everything and it's a time of year you just kind of get through, I really like promoting the idea, if you do want to have a pinpoint moment to start making changes, is in September in the fall. It's a real transitional time. It's back to school. To me, it's the real new year. It's when a lot of things start, and, the weather's still nice and people are still active. You might be in holiday mode, but you're feeling a little more maybe motivated from the days are longer and whatnot. When it's a bit tougher, I'll admit, in January to make a New Year's resolution when the weather sucks, depending where you live. I'm in Southwestern Ontario, so I like winter. I mean, people can call me nuts, but I do like winter. I like having different seasons. That's one of the advantages of where I live. So the days are short, it's colder, you might not really feel motivated. Our bodies, if you live in this kind of climate, our bodies naturally do want to hibernate, where it's kind of built into us. And when the cold weather hits, our metabolism slow a bit. Our bodies want to hold more body fat. Our bodies don't know. They're ancient mechanisms. They don't know we're in these, built-in structures with all, central heating, sitting on a couch watching large screen TVs. It hasn't, like, they don't know what we've been adapted to. Our body just knows these simple things. When the weather gets cold, it's kind of a preservation mechanism. So our bodies want to hold on onto more body fat as a backup energy source. That's what fat is. It's a reserve fuel source. The problem is when you get too much of it, then you start getting into a lot of different problems. So with the new year, I like it now as a fact. It is a reminder to people, and that's that little, I don't like saying the word nagging, but that little nagging voice in the back of your head. Sometimes that's what it takes to make changes. If you feel too comfortable all the time and your health is getting out of control and your weight and whatnot, it's going to be hard to actually make those. So it's that little kind of voice that's telling you to kind of get going with things. And again, it is everywhere, as this is a time of year where you're going to see more promotion of stuff like that. So and then the problem is there's been, like I mentioned before, the gyms get packed. Like, I've worked in gyms forever. Obviously, this is the busiest time of year, and it always will be. And then there's that side problem of a lot of people completely, I see this all the time, the gyms are busier, and then you've got these regular members who are completely snarking out and just dismissing all these new people and criticizing them, or I don't know, mumbling under their breath, or giving them a hard time because they're taking a little while trying to figure out a machine, which is just idiotic. If you're one of those people, stop being a D-bag. These people are trying to make some, changes in their lives and their health. They're coming in the gym, and that's the environment they're walking into. It's pretty ridiculous. And remember back to when you first started in the gym, and you probably didn't feel the most comfortable, and you didn't know where to go or what to do. So give these people a little bit of a break, help them out. It might be new friends. It might be a new community of people you can get in touch with, and you can, I don't know, share what you know and share it with other people. That's probably a really good gift if you've built up a lot of knowledge, and like, here's what works for me, and you can pass that on. And then, that will continue down the line. If you're brand new, if you're starting in a gym, like if you got a gym membership for Christmas, or you're starting off and there's, new gym promotions and whatnot, check out, most good gyms worth their weight will have introductory sessions. They'll either call it a orientation, or they'll do, free personal training for a session or two, and do take advantage of those. And if they don't promote it, it is something they should have offered. Again, if it's a worthwhile gym, they'll have at least one orientation session, ideally 3, to kind of ease you into things, get you, familiar with some of the equipment. So for whatever reason, if that's not offered, just ask about it. They're obviously always going to try and push personal training and try and sell their packages, which is fine. A lot of those are extremely worthwhile. But this time of year, it should, or just look for a gym that would offer those orientation introductory sessions to show you through. They'll show you, cardio machines, how to use them, how to set them up, how to, figure out your heart rate, maybe where you should be. I think they should, for gyms I've worked at anyway, they should get you set up on a simple, strength training program. Ideally, some machines that are simple to use. You can learn to feel how your muscles work, and they're things you can progress on, and they'll target some key body parts and stuff like that. And again, if this is a good gym as well, they shouldn't be giving you too much all at once, and not to make you feel overwhelmed. If they give you a one session and it's just all the information that should be spread out over months, that might not be the best for you. So if you are checking out gyms, or if it is one, just that's a sign that they have your interests at heart, that they'll give you something that's going to not overwhelm you. It's going to be simple. It's ideally going to leave you wanting more. You might feel like, oh, I got to be doing way much more of this. I should be, beat to crap by the end of the first workout, which is the complete opposite of what you want to be doing if you're new in a gym. You want to leave in any capacity, you want to leave the gym wanting more. You kind of want to, you do want to push yourself. You want to work hard, but you kind of want to cut it off just at that point where it's you're finding that's too much, and back it off a step. It's why it's always good to do at some point, I mean relatively safely, is have a workout where it's just a little too much, just so you can recognize those signals of when you've maybe gone too far and pushed yourself too much. You shouldn't be like leaving the gym just beat to hell. You should be feeling more energized and upbeat, and you definitely worked and you want to be feeling it, but so if you're starting off and it's a program either you're doing or something they're setting up for you, make sure it's something like where you're like, okay, that's good, I want to come back, I don't dread coming back. If it's an hour and a half, and I honestly, I'd start off, if you're new to exercising fitness, I'd start off with 20 minutes. You can set up good little circuits on some strength training machines, just kind of hit all the main body parts and go from the largest muscle groups down to the smallest. So start with your legs, like do a leg press machine, move on to maybe like a leg extension, depending if hopefully your knees are okay, a hamstring leg curl. Then your next biggest muscle is going to be like your back muscle, so some sort of seated row. There's lots of machines like that. Then you want to go into maybe a chest press machine. Then you can go into a shoulder press. You can do a couple arm exercises if you want. And then, go into like a lower back exercise. Again, if you're comfortable with that and your back's feeling all right. There's a lot of really good gym based back extension machines. You kind of lock in and there's a pad on your back, and then there's a back support, and you extend yourself backwards so you won't go too far, and those are good. And then, a good ab crunch machine. This is, if you're brand new to it all. So in that way, you've worked all the main muscle groups in the body. You use your strength earliest on the biggest muscle groups when you require it more, and then you work your way down. And, you do a couple sets each of around, 12 to 15 repetitions. If you start getting over 15, it's getting a little too light to be super effective. If you start getting under, 8, 9, 10, if it's under that, it's starting to get a little too heavy. Assuming your goals are to, build some lean muscle, get a bit fitter, lose some weight, anywhere at least 10, no more than 15. It'll vary every time you go in. 12 is kind of a good thing to aim for general fitness and strength training. Some workouts you might get 13 out on any given weight. You might get 11, you might get 14, but somewhere in that ballpark. And you want to select weights. Again, good trainers should tell you this. You want to select a weight where comfortably and with good form, you reach that failure point at around, 12-ish reps, maybe 15 if it's like leg exercises and stuff like that. You don't want it too heavy so you can get in and you can only do like 5 of them. You want to be comfortable with good form. So the one way you can do a circuit like that is start with the, that order of exercises, the legs, the back, the chest, the shoulders, work your way down, do one exercise, and then go right to the next, of like 8 or 9 different machines or exercises, work your way through that whole thing, rest a couple minutes, and you can go through it again, and then maybe even a third time if you want, and that's a good way to make it kind of a little bit of a cardio circuit, as well as a strength training circuit too. So it's kind of got a double reducing effect that way. And then down the road, that's when you look at expanding and getting into different exercise and some free weights, and, take advantage of the trainers in the gyms. Some, again, depending on the gym, there's a lot of places and all they're going to do is push personal training, which is not a bad thing. It's a good service. They're not selling you like crappy Florida real estate or some bogus life insurance. Like these people will definitely help you, and that's the reason even Olympic athletes use trainers. You can only do so much on your own. But most gyms, again, will have floor staff who aren't necessarily trying to hound people down to sell them stuff. They're there just, even if it's a desk staff, depending what your gym setup is like, ask some questions. A lot of the time, honestly, these people are bored out of their minds and they can only put away so many weights and wipe down so many surfaces. So even the lowliest level, not necessarily volunteer, depending where it is, but like a lower level staff who's maybe not a full personal trainer, but just someone who's doing maybe orientation sessions, which is how most trainers have to start out, they still have a lot of knowledge. And ideally, these people have some certification background, possibly good schooling, but they have never worked in a gym, so they got to start somewhere. So if there's open floor staff or someone who looks like they work there, that's when you can like show me how to do a chest fly with free weights or whatever it is. Take advantage of those people. You're paying for that gym membership and these people are around, take advantage of them. So that's the thing to look out for in the gyms. So before we get into just some nutrition tips, I'd say to get people started off right. Yeah, that's just my thought on New Year's resolutions. I think they're definitely not a necessity. I think that's obviously something you can do any time of year, but that mindset and the thought process of getting healthier and losing weight and whatever is a little more prevalent. So you may as well take advantage of it if that has been your goal. But the main thing is to start small, like I said, and that's the same thing to do with some of these nutrition pointers I'll give you. I may as well like cover this now. Taking on too much at once is only, straight up going to lead to failure. It's going to, if you've gone from eating fast food 3 times a day to trying to eat only like organic foods and cutting out all sugar and all refined foods and eliminating all the coffee you drink, and then trying to take water intake up, and then adding in all these things, it's so overwhelming. It's not going to happen. I mean, there's something like 2 or 3% of people that can take on massive overhaul changes and actually stick with it. It's a real kind of personality temperament thing when some people are able to do it, but it's just not the way we're really designed. We do a lot better when you slowly ingrain things in and build them up as habits. So with some of the things I suggest, or, new things you're looking to add in, before you do 5 or 6 things at once, get good at one thing and get used to that and let that become a daily habit and do it. Like the first one I'm going to say, for example, is starting the day off with a good large glass or 2 of water with some lemon squeezed in it. So in this situation, most people, you haven't drank any water through the night, you're dehydrated and you wake up. Best thing you can do to kind of kick off the day is to start hydrating and cleansing your body. So water is so important for, not just hydration, but like digestion, absorption of nutrients, circulation, blood pressure, cognitive functions, mental awareness. It's just so important in all these things. And then when you add in some fresh squeezed lemon, that really bumps up the detox and cleansing aspect of drinking water. So with that as a tip, I would do that and start that and do that every day for at least a week, ideally 2 weeks, before moving on into another tip. So after a while, you're doing these things like without thinking, and that's how you build up a healthier lifestyle. So yeah, I mean, you can take longer. There's always that idea that it takes 21 days to create a habit, which is actually a complete myth. And this whole notion comes from the early 60s. And there was a plastic surgeon, I forget the guy's name, in Beverly Hills. And he was looking at when he was doing, whatever facial augmentations and changes in people's faces. They obviously have this new face, and every time they would look in the mirror, it would still catch them off guard because they're not looking at who they were. They're looking at this new person. He found it took at least 21 days until they started to become a little more comfortable and familiar with what they were seeing. And then somehow this got taken over by I think they're called like psychoanalysis or analyzers or whatever back then, when they're looking at things like this, like mindsets and habit changes and whatever. And so this doctor had wrote a book on this 21-day habit thing. They kind of jumped on it and said, oh, it takes 21 days to master a habit, which wasn't really true, and they were basing it off this plastic surgeon's research. And what he was actually looking at, he said it took at least 21 days for those things to start sinking in, and this wasn't necessarily like a regular day-to-day habit like making your bed first thing when you get up. This was just in the recognition of someone with, facial changes. He was saying it was more likely 6 weeks it takes for habits to actually become part of us, where we don't have to think about them anymore. Like, or where if you're looking in the mirror at your new facial changes at around that 6 week point, that's when it became a little more familiar and people just didn't even regard it. So if you're looking at real habits, that it becomes second nature, it looks like it's around 6 weeks. But when we're looking at things like health-wise that you're going to do anyway, because at some point you have to eat, you have to drink. So that's why, if you give it a week or two, it'll start to be, ideally 2 weeks, things will become a little more natural. So I'd say from that point, the next thing that's important is overall, these are simple tips, but I think the good kind of overview of some health changes you can make that are going to make some big differences if you've gone from, not being aware of your diet, nutrition, and everything like that. So the next thing would be your overall water intake. So this one's simple. You're looking at drinking, or what you want to do is drink half your weight in ounces each day. So that's your weight in pounds. If you weigh 150 pounds, take that in half, 75, and that's 75 ounces. And when you divide that by, if you took an actual cup, which is 8 ounces, you're looking at, 8 or 9 cups of water. And if you look at your regular drinking glass, they're usually pretty big. They can probably hold 2 of those cups. So it's actually not too bad, and it's easy to do. It might only equal 5 of those glasses a day. You can fill up a big thermos and just make sure you finish it by the end of the day. Here's the thing though, if you've gone from drinking 0 water, it's probably not the best idea. Well, it's not the worst thing, but to take us all on at once, because it's going to be a little overwhelming. Also, maybe not the most comfortable thing. So I would add, just a glass a day. I mean, for a couple days, then have 2 a day for a couple days, and 3, and then get yourself up there. And then, if you're drinking those couple, at least 1 large one first thing in the morning, you're kind of on your way to that anyway. So those 2 sort of go hand in hand. So the next tip, and this is probably, they're all big, but this is probably the biggest and what most people would say is as well, as far as nutrition experts and whatnot, is to eliminate or drastically reduce your sugar intake. And if you want to learn more about sugar, I will link up some more episodes I've done and some blogs on that whole thing. That's like a year-long topic. So if you go to regainedwellness.com/104, I'll put these things like I'm talking about here. So I'll have a whole, like I've done lots of shows on sugar and blogs and stuff, so you can look a little more into it. But basically the amount of refined sugar we have is just causing chaos in all ways possible you can think of. It's at the root of, obesity and heart disease and diabetes and everything like that. And there's just too much, and we're exposed to too much as well. So the more you can eliminate, refined foods and products, the more you're getting away from that. The biggest tip is probably, make sure you're not at least drinking sugar through your calorie intake, like soft drinks, pop, soda, whatever you want to call it, fruit juices, sports drinks, whatnot. Drinking liquid sugar is just, setting yourself up for disaster. You're spiking your blood sugar, and a lot of these things use the worst form of sugar, which would be high fructose corn syrup. Again, like, listen to my other shows on this if you want to learn why that stuff is so bad. So if you can eliminate drinking sugar and the calories, that's awesome start. And then you can look at, eliminating the added sugar in your diet. At least get your sugar from natural sources like fruit. And when you're going for fruit, ideally, berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, citrus fruits, those are your best bets. Even, green apples, a lot of fruits, very sugary, but at least it is natural sugar. The problem is when you drink it in the juice form, there's no natural fiber or roughage to slow the absorption of it. It's just instant. It's like rocket fuel in your body. So try and get your sugar from those sources, and try to I mean, it's impossible to completely eliminate it, but drastically reduce, and that'll really help you out. Next thing is, I'd say, is a very important, and again, a lot of people I've interviewed on the show will say the same thing, is to eliminate vegetable oils. So vegetable or seed oils, from vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, all that stuff, like basically whatever they'd use in a commercial, say, salad dressing, unless it's an olive oil based one. But the regular salad dressings or oils you cook with, those crappy refined oils, brutal again. It cause inflammation in the body. And think of inflammation like, if you cut your finger, if you get a sliver, how it gets red and swollen, that's inflammation happening. The same thing happens internally, but you don't necessarily see or feel it till it's too late. And, inflammation is seen as being at kind of the root of all diseases. And these, among a lot of other things, refined oils have a real issue causing that. So oil-wise, you want to switch over, whether you're cooking or sauteing or salad dressing, use olive oil, ideally extra virgin olive oil. Coconut oil is amazing. Coconut oil will be the best to cook with. It has a higher, what they call smoke point, where it can take a higher temperature. When oil starts to smoke, get rid of it. I mean, be careful how you get rid of it, but get rid of it. You basically, when it's got to that point, it starts to break down and become rancid, and then it's even worse than it was to start with, especially, oils or margarines that are trans fat based. When they're super heated, that's some of the worst stuff in the world. That's what's, fat's been looked at and demonized, all forms of fat, for, heart disease and clogging arteries, when it's really these trans fats, these inferior oils that turn into sludge basically in your arteries. But when you're looking at, natural forms, cleaner, higher natural omega-3s and 6s, and again, like the coconut oil, better for cooking because it can withstand higher heats. You shouldn't be cooking at super high heat anyway. Keep things more low and slow, and coconut oil is perfect to cook with. Also, things like avocado oil is really good alternative to those things. So it's easy to make your own salad dressing. This is what I do. I just take olive oil, I'll take a bit of balsamic or maybe red wine vinegar and just whisk them together, pour that over, and it's 1,000 times better than any commercial salad dressing, if you ask me. So the next thing I would say after that, and this is another very critical thing I think most people should be doing, is replacing grains with greens. So we eat way too many grains than we need, unless you're a highly active person, athlete, who's can make better use of that energy. Grains are extremely energy dense, and then the problem is we're eating the worst versions of them, whether it's like grains through bread or white pasta or white rice. If you're eating, brown or wild rice, that's not as bad. We eat way too much bread, in my opinion, and just because we think of bread or whole wheat bread or whole grain bread, it's not really whole grain per se. It's not even really wheat. It's ground flour that's been exposed to super high temperatures. It can come from potentially genetically modified sources, and then we're eating this baked flour. We're not eating grains at all. So if you can get rid of breads, and include pasta in that too, white rices and stuff like that, and start adding in more greens, the more the better. It's basically, there's not enough you can eat. You should be looking for double-digit servings of vegetables, ideally green leafy. The darker green, the better. That just means that it's denser, chlorophyll-wise, and that's where all the phytonutrients are and minerals and stuff like that. So if you take those crappy iceberg lettuces, those you buy in those little mixed packs, and most of the lettuce is white, it's basically, you may as well have a glass of water. That's pretty much all you're consuming. The greens should be as dark as possible. All the vegetables should be, whatever you eat, if it's purple or red, should be the deepest colors of those versions you can find. So dark leafy green vegetables, and add those in instead of your pastas. Have them here or there, but don't base your diet around it unless you're extremely active, because all that energy is not being used. That's what's ending up as body fat. It's just because it's not being burned off, and then it becomes that backup fuel source, and boom, there's some more body fat, as well as like raising your blood sugar levels as you're going as well too, because it is that refined thing. So For carbohydrates, I keep the servings minimal and go for those better choices. Remember, fruit and vegetables are still carbohydrate choices. It doesn't have to be all starches. If you're going for it, go for some sweet potatoes. Like I said, brown or wild rice. Those are some good go-tos there. Okay, I think I'll cut it off there because the same thing. I don't want to. I could load this thing up with 12, 15 different points to start with. And I don't want to do that and overwhelm, you at the same time. So those are some good pointers, like the water in the morning, water overall, getting rid of vegetable oils, reducing your sugar, replacing grains with greens. I think those are a good place to start. Like I said, if you're new here or if you've only been listening for a little while, I've got over 100 shows that cover all these different topics. So I'm confident you will find every issue so far covered by not just me, but by a lot of expert nutrition authors I've had in who are, New York Times bestsellers and go on, Good Morning America and Dr. Oz, all that stuff. I've had a lot of them on here. So you'll find more information. Like I said, as well, if you're listening to this and you have access to an internet device, just go to regainedwellness.com/104. And in the show notes, so that's where show notes are where I link up everything to do with the episode. I'll have more links to more of those shows I've done or blogs on all these different subjects like sugar, trans fats, carbohydrates, the whole deal. So there'd be a lot just there to get you started just on regainedwellness.com/104. And while you're there at the website, make sure to sign up for the email newsletter because that's a good way to be kept up to date with what's whatever I got going on, like new shows or info. And a lot of stuff I only share basically through email. That's the advantage of signing up. And when you do sign up, you get started with a free ebook I put out for everyone who signs up. And it's a healthy eating starter kit. So it's got more information on foods you want to be including in your diet and why. So like some of these things I talked about and the things you want to be avoiding and more detail into why you want to be avoiding it too. So I get that book because it's free. I want, people to get this information. And then you're part of the email newsletter, so you're always up to date with things and going on. So I would do that. So you can sign up on the on the website. So or you can go to regainedwellness.com/guide, and it takes you right there where you just put in your email address. But there's sign up forms all over the website too. But regainedwellness.com/guide, and that'll just take you immediately to sign up, and then that ebook magically gets sent you through the interwebs, and you're off and rolling. So okay, that's enough there. I'll cut it off. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. I know there's a lot of info out there, a lot of podcasts, so thank you for listening to this one. Appreciate that. And again, make sure you subscribe on iTunes so you get the shows automatically delivered. You don't have to worry about checking in on them. And if you did like it, share it with whoever, leave a rating and review. That helps as well too, because then more people get exposed to the show. Okay, that's a lot of instructions I've given you. Apologize, but hopefully it's all things that'll be for the best and help you out. So I will talk to you later. Bye.